was a big thing about getting rid of the processed refined sugar from my diet and the processed refined flour from my diet. And I found that by doing those two things, which, if you think about it, that really eliminates a lot of different types of processed foods. But then started replacing them in my diet with the whole foods that our bodies are designed to eat. So, so I, stopped eating white bread and then replaced it with whole grain. So instead of eating Wonder Bread, now I'm eating sprouted grain bread, or maybe not even bread at all, maybe just eating the grains whole, like whole oatmeal or brown rice. I just started, replacing foods with a better, higher quality version, just like you would do with your car. Use a higher version or a better octane gasoline so you get a better ride. So I started realizing that it wasn't necessarily only about eating too many calories and not exercising enough, but that it actually really did have to do with the chemicals in the food, because these chemicals, we started to find, looking through scientific literature, that they were having pretty impactful reactions within the body. Oftentimes reactions where it would triple the release of insulin in the body, even if from eating just a small amount of a certain chemical would do that. We would see that it would lead to hormonal imbalances, bowel disorders, to where you're not even absorbing the important nutrients, like you're not absorbing the vitamins and minerals, but you're just absorbing the sugars in to the body. And so that would then create a whole imbalance there. It's like a whole metabolic problem that was happening from chemicals. So this was something there, and this is a short list here on this slide of some of those things that happen, but even something like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease, which are neurological disorders, we started seeing that certain chemicals are crossing the blood-brain barrier and then interfering with normal neurological function. And so it started to get scary to me. Like at first it became kind of like an eye-opener, and then it started to get scary. So this is kind of, I don't know what to do about this. Sometimes when you're just one person and you're learning something, you don't really know, how do I do anything about this other than, make my own changes for my own life. And that's what I did. When I first started out, I wasn't really thinking that I was going to be able to make a big impact on anyone else, but I was reading things, and I was writing things and noting, and eventually was able to get it into a format to where I could share with other people. So one of the first things that I started helping people do was reading ingredient lists. And I always say, that nutrition fact panel at the top of the box there, the one that tells you how many calories and how many grams of fat and how many grams of protein and sodium, and all of that information is helpful. But for the most part, if the ingredient list of the food isn't something that you can pronounce the words, and if the ingredients themselves are not, what we would consider whole foods, then the calorie count and everything else is really kind of no consequence. I always tell people, read the ingredient list, because that's going to tell you whether or not the food is going to be your slow form of poison or not. And so I always said, it's not about the calories, it's about the ingredients. We need to look at that ingredient list. And just this little close-up one with the yogurt, I always, say that yogurt is a food that it could be healthy, and then it could not be healthy. It really depends on the ingredients. So a lot of yogurts are what I call kind of like glorified strawberry milk, or, like that stuff we give to kids, strawberry milk, that's just a sugary flavored milk. Well, a lot of yogurts are like that too. And yogurt gets a good rap in a lot of ways, because it has probiotic bacteria in it that are supposed to be good for the gut. But if you also add a lot of sugar into it, then the sugar actually upsets the gut. it upsets the bacterial balance in the gut. So having a sugary yogurt is really not doing ourselves any favor. So looking for those sugars that are in the yogurt. This one has high fructose corn syrup. And even though high fructose corn syrup has gotten a lot of attention in recent years, and people are starting to shy away from it, and companies are starting to replace it with other sweeteners, it's still around. It's still there, and you still need to be aware of it. High fructose corn syrup is basically it's a sugar that is derived from corn, but it's not really anything you could make in your own kitchen. You need a lot of really sophisticated laboratory equipment to basically break down the starches in the corn into their sugars. And then they actually have to do some spinning. You know, they put it in this centrifuge thing and they spin it around, and then they get this, end up with this, and syrups that is basically resembles the sweetness of cane sugar, but it's a little different in its molecular structure, because with cane sugar, you have two simple sugars joined together by a bond. And in high fructose corn syrup, it's just two single sugars that are not connected to each other. And so when it gets into your bloodstream, it just goes all the more quickly into through your digestive system, and then quickly into your bloodstream, much faster even than regular sugar does. And I'm not advocating for regular refined sugar, but it's, if I had to compare the two, the high fructose corn syrup is worse in that way, because it's an unnatural type of thing. It's created unnaturally, like that. It doesn't exist in the corn as high fructose corn syrup. It actually has to be created and broken down by enzymes in order to get it to be that. So we're looking to not have high fructose corn syrup in our food.